Well, g'day, mate. Let's look at the chart of Australia. Uh, Sorry about the accent, guys, if you didn't enjoy. Most people think I'm Australian anyway. So we have the chart for Australia, and I want to look at it because of the tumultuous time that Australia is going through. I'll also be looking at the chart of Canada. Very interesting because Canadian and Australian charts have a lot in common in terms of their makeup. So what you'll immediately see is Australia, which was born on the 26th of January 1788, which was when it became a kind of penal colony established by the British. The Dutch had already explored the coast, but it was the British who kind of really got things going out there, right? The sun is rising in Aquarius. So Aquarius ascendant, sun rising. Immediately that's saying to me about the Aussie love of life. They are courageous, gregarious, outgoing, sunny, healthy, outdoorsy. It is such a sense of confidence about this country, right? The sun on the first, so resilient as well. The Aquarius free-spirited nature of the country. It's, such a vibrant place. Innovative as well. And as you can see, my gosh, Australia's blossomed from a wilderness into the most amazing place in under 250 years. Isn't that amazing, right? And I also think as a South African, we've competed against Aussies in cricket, in rugby, and, the Aussies are indomitable. They have the spirit about them. They can be down and out, but you can never, ever, ever count the Aussie team out. They always come back. You've seen that in cricket so many times, when the SA had it like that close and Australia always snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. They are very, very competitive, positive people, right? So that I would say is typified. We've got Jupiter in Gemini in the fifth, again, sports loving, the great outdoors, nature loving people, the wide expanses, the skillfulness as well in the sport, the versatility, and also shows, the broad range of things that Australians are known for, are good at. I mean, it's a country with an awful lot going on. Interesting. They have got Venus conjunct Saturn in the final degrees of Aquarius on the cusp of the second house. I think that speaks to the wealth of natural resources, both in terms of farming, agriculture, mineral wealth, the ports, the fishing, the oceans, awful lot of tourism. I mean, it's a very wealthy country as well. People generally have a very high standard of living in Australia. That all epitomizes that. What I find was kind of interesting, Mars is retrograde in Cancer in the sixth. That's a triple whammy on Mars. Mars is weakened by being retrograde. It's weak in Cancer. It's weak in the sixth house. The sixth house is the house of the military. So Australia cannot defend themselves militarily. They're very, very, very vulnerable. Okay, I remember in the 50s, my grandparents wanted to immigrate to either Australia and New Zealand, but they didn't do it because they said at the time they were too vulnerable to attack from Japan. Now, at the time, after World War II, obviously my grandparents are thinking Japan's the threat. It's really now China more than Japan, but you can see that China's a very, very big threat, especially as I hear China, Australians have probably sold out to the Chinese with their ports, particularly in Victoria State and Melbourne, right? So they are vulnerable to military attack. Interesting as well is Neptune in the ninth house. And this is very key because the solar arc, I talked about Venus conjunct Saturn, final degrees of Aquarius. By solar arc, it's conjunct Neptune. So we've got to look at Neptune as a very important feature. Now, I feel that Australia is immature politically. They don't have a political guiding philosophy, and that's what they need right now to come out of this. Now, if you think about it, Russia had the Tsar, they had the Russian Revolution, the Soviet era that they came out of, now they've got the Putin era. Spain had the Reconquista. France had their issues, they had their revolution, they've had the Fifth Republic now. They had, Italy, that went through its period with fascism. Germany's had many different evolutions. The royalty, they had World War I, World War II, the fascism, Nazism, whatever you want to call it. The UK, we had Henry VIII breaking away from the Catholic Church, the Industrial Revolution, civil wars. America had its own revolution, its civil war. Other countries have had so many genesis points through their kind of evolution that have maybe changed them, made them more politically mature, and have established them as something that's tangible politically. Australia hasn't had that yet. And so what they're about to go through is a kind of political revolution where as a country, they'll discover some sort of ideology, some sort of guiding force to take them forward. So let's look at the transits first. These are very dramatic. I talked about the sun being conjunct the ascendant in Aquarius. It's actually at 5 and 6 degrees Aquarius, which means that next year, transiting Pluto will be on the sun, and on the ascendant. Both of these have a strong connotation to identity, the character, the nature, the perception of the country. It's dramatically changing. Elon Musk tweeted that within the last sort of 10 years, 36% of Canadian population growth has been fueled by immigration. We see a mass influx of immigration into Australia from mainly India and China, and also now Africa. Immigration happens naturally, but when it's this fast, in the case of Canada, Australia, and Ireland as well, when it's this fast on a small population, Australia's only 25 million, Canada was only 18 million when I did their chart back like 7 years ago, right? So there's relatively small populations, very big influx of immigration very quickly. This changes the country's character because there's no assimilation going on, there's no need for it. I've heard it alleged that many of the Chinese communities, particularly the upper echelons, which are bound to be Chinese Communist Party people, they conduct their business with each other and through WeChat, and therefore WeChat is like PayPal for China, isn't it? And then they kind of, it's got a PayPal application, and then they kind of evade taxes in Australia. So because there's a lot of networking amongst the new immigrants and still a lot of attachment to their home country, there is potentially, allegedly, the ability to evade local taxes, also massively pushing up property prices, right? If you think about it this way, combined population of India and China is 3 billion. If just 2% of those combined go to Australia, it's 60 million people. There's only, 27, 25 million Australians. This totally transforms the country. If you think about militarily, there's no need for any country to have a military. Military is so passé because all you need is mass immigration of a certain country with a certain different philosophy. These people immediately get involved in business, get involved in politics, local government, whatever it is. You've totally taken over a country without a shot being fired, and you can do it also with, it can be done very peacefully, but it can be done very effectively, very nefariously. So there's undoubtedly a dramatic change happening in Australia right now, but it is possible because of this activation of Neptune and the new political ideology and philosophy that Australians can embrace. It's also possible because Pluto, they'll have their Pluto return when Pluto hits 15 degrees of Aquarius. So they've got a window of opportunity now to seize back control of their nation's destiny and their nation's identity. They have the opportunity, but they've got to represent the threat because the threat right now is immense as regards Pluto on that on the sun. The other thing that the first house is all about is the land, the weather. So I think Australia in 1910 was the first place they were doing weather manipulation, and it was tested. It's in the newspapers going back to 1910. They may try weather wars on Australia to destroy farming. I mean, they're doing it in the UK to destroy farming through solar panels, through drought, through whatever. So I think Australia is very vulnerable to an attack on the farming community to perhaps get people off the land, get the farmers off the land. The big thing in communism, get people off the land. That's why they collectivized farms in Ukraine, where there was the mass famine during the Holodomor. It's very common. Look what they did in Zimbabwe. You get people off the land in various ways. Obviously, they did it through redistribution of wealth and reclaiming sort of colonial property in Zimbabwe and South Africa. You see the same thing, the attacks on farmers. So I think there will be some sort of attack, but maybe through the means of weather on Australian farmers. Okay, so that's a little bit concerning, but I still have every confidence Australia can wrestle this back. Also wanted to show that in the transits, Australia will, oh no, that's the wrong one. Looking at the other chart. That's my other chart for Australia. There was another kind of progression that I think I had to talk about. Progressed Mars is reaching the mid-heaven. Now, Mars is related to the military. As I said, Mars weakly placed in Australia's chart. Mars on the mid-heaven, some sort of attack on the leadership, attack on power. Will there be some sort of false flag incident affecting the power structure, the government in Australia that they can then use as a pretext to do something? That's going to be very interesting, and that could happen in the following year. So there is a chance for people to seize control over this. There is a chance for a whole new body of thinking, a whole Australian political philosophy to arise, a revolutionary spirit that I talked about in the chart of France, that France have this revolutionary spirit. Australia now need to capture it in a way that they can reclaim their destiny and the dreams and hopes of their amazing, wonderful, incredible nation. I think a paradise was created in Australia, and that needs to be, appreciated, preserved,